Welcome to part 9 of this gripping story. By now, I know you're eager to see how Amanda rises above all her misfortunes, and I promise we're just one step away from the emotional finale of this true-to-life journey. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Let's see just how far this story travels across the world, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because stories with lessons this deep deserve to be heard in every corner of the globe. And also disregard any other channel posting any other storyline apart from this ongoing one. They are just trying to tap into our precious audience. Now, Amanda's joy at giving birth to a baby boy is short-lived when Gabriel's mother, Mrs. Adaka, poisons the child's milk. The baby dies, leaving Amanda and Gabriel devastated while Mrs. Adaka secretly celebrates, convinced this will drive Amanda away. Crushed by grief, Amanda questions whether her marriage is worth the endless suffering. Gabriel, equally torn, wonders if his mother's warnings about Amanda bringing misfortune might be true. Seeking guidance, he turns to his grandfather, who urges him never to abandon love because of outside opinions. Strengthened by this wisdom, Gabriel decides to stand firmly with Amanda, but the storm is far from over. Adaka remains bitter and determined to make Amanda's life miserable. Meanwhile, Auntie Rose, fueled by vengeance for her brother's family and the loss of her sister, plots her next move. Amanda has survived many trials, but darker battles still lie ahead. The door creaked open and Cynthia's heart sank. She didn't even need to look. She knew it was him. Her boyfriend stepped inside, his shadow stretching across the dimly lit room. Like every other night, he came with the same cruel intention. "You're mine, Cynthia. You'll marry me whether you like it or not," he hissed as he grabbed her arm. Her body went stiff. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but she knew how it would end. She had tried before. She had swung at him once, and all it earned her was bruises and a mocking laugh. Now her strength was gone, her wrists ached from the ropes, her spirit from the chains she couldn't see. As he pushed her down, Cynthia's mind drifted somewhere else. Maybe this is my punishment. Maybe this is payback for all the girls I betrayed, the ones I sold to monsters, the ones who never made it out alive. The guilt was heavy, crushing her chest. Is this my fate? To become the wife of a kidnapper? To live every day waiting for death? For the first time, she stopped resisting. She closed her eyes, lost in thought, wondering if there was any way out of this nightmare. Cynthia's boyfriend, surprised, leaned closer, smirk tugging at his lips. "What's this? No fight tonight? No scratching, no screaming?" His tone dripped with mockery, as though he almost missed her defiance. "Are you finally tired of struggling with me, Cynthia?" For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Cynthia's chest rose and fell with shaky breaths. She had fought him for weeks, every single time, and all it had earned her were bruises and more chains. Maybe it was madness, maybe survival instinct, but something inside her told her to stop resisting, for now. I accept," she whispered, forcing her words out slowly. "I accept your proposal." His eyes widened, then narrowed with suspicion before softening into a twisted grin. He cupped her chin roughly, searching her face as if to read her truth. "That's more like it. That's my Cynthia. I knew you'd come around." She forced a weak smile, though her heart raced. Inside, her thoughts screamed, "This isn't surrender, it's survival. Maybe if I play along, I'll gain his trust. And if I gain his trust, maybe one day, I'll find my way out." He let out a deep sigh, pacing slowly across the room before turning back with a strange glint in his eyes. "You know why I can't let you go?" he asked, voice thick with intensity. "It's not just your beauty, Cynthia. It's your mind. You're sharp, smarter than the rest. That's why I love you. That's why I need you." Cynthia's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She simply watched him, her breathing uneven. "I tried to change once," he continued, his tone softer, almost reflective. "Tried leaving the streets behind, tried honest work. But tell me, what job pays you ransom in a single night? None. Not one. Kidnapping is what I know. It's what I'm good at. And with you standing beside me, we can be unstoppable. He moved closer, crouching in front of her, his hand brushing against her cheek with unsettling tenderness. That's the truth, Cynthia. I don't want to fight you anymore. I want you with me in everything. She gave a small nod, her eyes heavy, her voice barely above a whisper. I hear you. Her boyfriend stood tall, his confession hanging heavy in the air. Then he snapped his fingers at the boys guarding the door. Untie her, he ordered. One of them stepped forward, hesitated, then loosened the ropes around Cynthia's wrists and ankles. The sting of freedom was almost overwhelming. Her skin burned where the ropes had dug into her, but her heart didn't race with relief. It beat slow, heavy, uncertain. You see, Cynthia, he said, lighting a cigarette with casual arrogance. I don't want you as my prisoner anymore. I want you as my partner, my lover, my queen. That's better than chains, isn't it? He exhaled smoke and smiled as though he had just offered her the world. Cynthia rubbed her wrists gently, her voice flat. So, I'm free? He chuckled, shaking his head. Free, but not free. Don't get it twisted. If you're with me, you walk around without ropes. But betray me, just once, and you'll wish I left you tied up. His tone shifted from sweet to steel in an instant. The boys around them exchanged knowing looks. They had heard him make threats before, but this one was different. It was laced with a dangerous kind of love. Cynthia swallowed hard, nodded, and whispered, I understand. Good, he said, standing closer, brushing a hand across her shoulder. That's my girl. No more fighting me, no more running. You're mine, and we'll build this empire together. Though her chains were gone, the weight on Cynthia's shoulders felt heavier than ever. Her boyfriend's tone shifted suddenly, sharp and commanding. You have a task, he said, his voice cutting through the air. Cynthia stiffened, her brows furrowed. What task? She asked carefully, though her heart already pounded in dread. He stepped closer, his shadow looming over her. Your friend Amanda, he said slowly, savoring the name. Her husband is rich, powerful. That makes him the perfect next target. The words hit Cynthia like a blow to the chest. Amanda, her only true friend, the one who had trusted her even when no one else did. Her throat went dry, her body frozen. Her boyfriend smirked at her silence, flicking ash onto the floor. Don't play dumb. This is simple. You want to prove your loyalty? You want to stay free? Then deliver her to me. Lead her into the trap, and you'll never see these boys chain you again. Cynthia shook her head weakly. Amanda, she's innocent. She doesn't deserve... Enough, he barked, his eyes flashing with fury. Don't forget who holds your life in his hands. You think you can survive out there without me? Without us? You're mine, Cynthia. And if you love me the way you claim, you'll do this. Her lips trembled. She lowered her gaze, nodding slowly. I understand. While in Gabriel's mansion, Amanda stirred awake long before the sun touched the curtains. The silence of the house was heavy, but in her chest the ache was louder than any sound. Her baby's cry, the one she would never hear again, echoed in her mind until it felt unbearable. She pressed her palm to her flat stomach, where life had once grown, and the tears that had long dried burned fresh behind her eyes. She knew deep inside this loss wasn't ordinary. A mother's instincts never lie. The way the baby had suddenly cried uncontrollably, the way he went silent so quickly, the way Mrs. Adaka's sharp eyes lingered on her every time she smiled at her child. It all added up to one truth Amanda didn't want to say aloud. Gabriel's mother had a hand in it. Her body trembled, not just with grief, but with fear. If her child could be taken so easily under this roof, what would stop it from happening again? What if next time it was her, or the future she still hoped to have? She wiped her face, whispering to herself, I cannot keep living like this. Something must change or I will not survive. That morning, Amanda greeted Gabriel softly, her voice carrying the weight of nights spent in silent tears. She didn't circle around the matter. Her strength was too thin for pretenses. Sitting across from him at the breakfast table, her hands clasped tightly, she looked into his eyes and spoke plainly. "Gabriel," she began, steady but fragile, "I can't keep living like this. Either you get me a separate apartment or your mother goes back to her own house. If not, I'll have no choice but to walk away from this marriage." Her words hung in the air like a blade. Gabriel froze, taken aback by her bluntness. She had never spoken with such finality before. Amanda's voice didn't waver, but the sadness in her eyes betrayed how much this cost her. She wasn't asking for luxury. She wasn't demanding comfort. She was fighting for her life, her sanity, and the chance to protect whatever future children she might bear. Her chest rose and fell quickly, heart pounding as though each word carved her open. "This house is swallowing me," she whispered. "And if nothing changes, it will kill me too." The ultimatum was clear, and, for the first time, unavoidable. Gabriel pushed his chair back, the scrape of wood against the tiled floor sharp and final. His jaw tightened as he looked at Amanda, disbelief flickering in his eyes. "No way, Amanda," he said firmly, almost harshly. "There is no way I can tell my mother to leave this house, and I will not rent you another apartment. She is an old woman. With time, you'll get used to her." Amanda's lips trembled, but Gabriel pressed on. His voice carried not just authority, but deep loyalty. "You don't understand. My mother is the reason I am who I am today. She carried me through fire when we had nothing. We slept under bridges. She worked herself to the bone so I could have this life. You think I can throw her out now? After all she did?" Amanda stared at him, stunned. His words stung, not because she doubted his mother's sacrifices, but because he refused to see the torment those same hands inflicted on her now. To Gabrielle, Mrs. Adaka was a savior. To Amanda, she was a silent executioner. The table between them felt like a wall, and with Gabrielle's sharp refusal, the cracks in their marriage deepened. Amanda's voice trembled as she stepped closer, her palms pressed together in pleading. "Gabriel, please, I'm not asking you to hate your mother. I just want to live. I can't keep risking my life. What happened to our baby wasn't ordinary. If I stay here, I'm afraid the same thing will happen again. Protect me. Protect our future children." Her words hung heavy in the room, but Gabriel's face darkened. His heart twisted, hearing not fear but accusation. "So now you're saying my mother is a killer?" His voice rose, sharp, cutting through Amanda's tears. Amanda shook her head desperately. "No, Gabriel, that's not what I mean. I'm not calling her a killer. I'm saying the danger is real. Please listen to me." But Gabriel was no longer listening. All he heard was his wife casting shadows on the woman who had sacrificed everything for him. Love for Amanda tugged at him, but loyalty to his mother held his heart in chains. Amanda wiped at her tears, her chest heaving. She thought she was pleading for protection, but to Gabriel it felt like she was demanding betrayal. And in that moment, love and loyalty clashed like fire and water. The room felt smaller than ever, the air heavy with unspoken pain. Amanda's tears finally spilled as she whispered, "Gabriel, if you truly love me, you will understand. I can't live like this anymore." Her voice cracked, but Gabriel's patience had already thinned. He slammed his palm against the armrest of the chair, startling her. "Enough, Amanda. You will not stand here and speak against my mother. Do you know what she's done for me? Do you know the sacrifices she made when we had nothing? Without her, I wouldn't even be here." Amanda flinched at his anger, clutching her chest, as if to shield her heart. "I carried your child and I lost him. And still, I'm the one fighting for my life in this house." Silence filled the space after her words, but it was no silence of peace. It was the silence before a storm. For the first time in their marriage, love was no longer enough to hold them steady. Gabriel's loyalty to his mother had built a wall between them, and Amanda felt her world collapse again. The burial ground was still fresh in Auntie Rose's mind as she walked back into her quiet house, the echo of her sister's name etched in every step. Her eyes were swollen, but not from grief alone. Rage sat heavy in her chest, burning hotter with each memory. Wilson, his wife, her cousin, and now her sister, all gone. And though Amanda was not directly responsible, Rose's heart refused logic. To her, Amanda was the thread tying every tragedy together. She sat in the dim light of her living room, staring at the wall as if answers would crawl out of the paint. "Because of her, my family is buried," she whispered to herself, fists tightening until her nails dug into her palms. The truth, that her sister's death was her own mistake, never crossed her lips. Blame was easier when pinned on Amanda. Vengeance felt like the only way to fill the hollow ache inside her. Not justice, not healing, vengeance. She wanted Amanda to taste pain raw, bitter, and endless. As Rose rocked back and forth in her chair, tears drying on her cheeks, one thought pulsed louder than the rest. Amanda must pay. Night draped itself over the city, and in her dimly lit room, Auntie Rose sat hunched in her chair, the glow of her phone screen painting shadows across her hardened face. She had done her digging, traced the number she needed, and now her finger hovered over the call button. "Tonight it begins," she muttered, pressing it. The line rang twice before a hesitant voice came through. "Hello? Who is this?" Angel's tone carried suspicion. Rose leaned back, her voice steady and deliberate. "Someone you'll want to meet. I have an offer for you. One that could change everything." Angel frowned, her free hand clutching the edge of her couch. An offer? From a stranger? Her tone was sharp, but beneath it was curiosity. "You're not speaking to a stranger," Rose replied smoothly. "You're speaking to someone who knows what Gabriel did to you. Someone who believes Amanda stole what was yours." Silence followed, thick and uneasy. Angel's pulse quickened. No one had dared to bring up that humiliation since Gabriel cast her out. "I'm listening," she finally said, though her voice trembled. A cold smile stretched across Rose's face. "Good. Then let's meet. Somewhere private." The cafe was nearly empty, tucked away on the edge of town where few eyes would pry. Auntie Rose sat at a corner table, her posture sharp, her gaze fixed on the door. Minutes later, Angel walked in, her sunglasses masking more than just her eyes. She spotted Rose and hesitated before sliding into the chair opposite her. "What do you want?" Angel's voice was clipped, defensive. Rose didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her tone low and piercing. "I want to talk about Gabriel, about Amanda, about how they ruined you." Angel stiffened, her jaw tightening. "That's in the past." "No," Rose countered, her eyes narrowing. "Past or not, the world still remembers. Gabriel threw you out like trash. Amanda replaced you, stood where you should have been. Does that not burn inside you?" Angel's lips pressed into a thin line, her silence giving away more than words could. Rose smirked. "You may have money, Angel, but money doesn't wash away shame. Pride matters, dignity matters, and Amanda took both from you." Angel's fists clenched under the table. Slowly, her defenses softened, bitterness seeping through. And in that moment, revenge didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like justice. The silence between them stretched before Auntie Rose broke it with chilling clarity. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper sharp enough to cut. "It's simple. Earn Amanda's trust again. Get close to her. Make her believe you've changed. Then bring her to me. I'll take care of the rest." Angel's eyes widened. The bluntness startled her. Rose wasn't speaking in riddles. She was speaking of blood. "You mean, you want me to hand her over?" Rose's expression hardened, unyielding. "Exactly. Don't waste time with guilt. Amanda stood where you were meant to stand. She's the reason your name is a joke, the reason Gabriel sees you as nothing. This is your chance to rewrite it all." Angel swallowed hard, Torn between fear and the strange pull of Rose's conviction, her chest rose and fell with shaky breaths. And if she doesn't trust me? She will, Rose assured coldly. People like Amanda are easy to fool. You'll smile, play the part, and she'll walk right into her fate. Angel's fingers drummed nervously against the table, but slowly she nodded. Their eyes locked, bitterness sealing the pact between them. Together they began sketching every detail. Vengeance, dressed as strategy. In the days that followed, Angel began practicing her new script. Soft smiles in the mirror, gentle tones in her voice, rehearsed apologies that sounded almost believable. Every word was calculated. Every gesture designed to paint her as a changed woman seeking forgiveness. She dressed modestly, chose her words carefully, and crafted the image of innocence she needed Amanda to see. Across from her, Auntie Rose observed with cold satisfaction. "Perfect," she murmured, her eyes glinting with the promise of revenge. "When Amanda sees you, she won't resist. She'll believe you've turned over a new leaf." Angel forced a smile, though her stomach churned. She hated pretending. But the thought of wiping away the sting of her past humiliation drove her forward. Revenge, after all, had a flavor she was beginning to savor. But what neither woman admitted, at least not aloud, was the flaw that already lingered beneath their plan. Amanda was no longer the same naive, trusting woman they remembered. Loss, betrayal, and constant battles had sharpened her instincts. The seeds of deception were planted. But whether they would bloom into victory or crumble into exposure remained a dangerous unknown. Cynthia had mastered the art of wearing a mask. Whenever her boyfriend was around, she played the part he expected: the doting girlfriend, the loyal assistant, the woman who nodded when he ranted about his business. She laughed at his jokes when required, even offered small pieces of advice that fed his ego. To anyone watching, she looked like the perfect partner standing by her man. But inside, Cynthia was breaking piece by piece. Every night followed the same tormenting routine. He would come to her room, force himself on her, and leave her hollow. Every morning, silence wrapped around her like chains. She had stopped struggling long ago, realizing her strength was no match for his. Instead, she endured, waiting, watching, and trying to survive. Yet a new fear began to gnaw at her. Despite all the times he claimed her body, she still wasn't pregnant. She lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, heart racing with questions she couldn't silence. Was she infertile? Was her past finally punishing her? The girls she betrayed, the lives that ended because of her? Or was something more sinister at work inside her body? The unease wouldn't let her rest. Cynthia's heart raced as she walked into the hospital, the cold scent of antiseptics filling her lungs. She wasn't sure what she feared more, the doctor's verdict or the possibility of discovering she was no longer whole. But the shock waiting for her wasn't medical. It was personal. Down the hallway, sitting quietly in a chair, was Amanda. Her face was pale, her posture frail, but her spirit still clung to dignity. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the air froze. Amanda's lips parted, trembling as she whispered, "Cynthia." Cynthia's throat tightened. Relief swept through her chest, followed quickly by dread. She hadn't expected to see Amanda here, not like this, not while living under her boyfriend's shadow. Amanda's eyes brimmed with questions, but Cynthia forced a small, fragile smile. "Not here, not now," she murmured softly, her tone urgent yet gentle. "Another time, another place. Too much has happened." Amanda nodded slowly, reading between the lines. They didn't need long speeches. Their pain spoke louder than words. Both women understood. They were still fighting, still holding on, but weighed down by battles that could crush them. Then, with heavy hearts, they walked away in opposite directions, swallowed by the hospital's sterile halls. Cynthia sat frozen in the stiff leather chair, her palms damp against her lap. The doctor adjusted his glasses, scanning the papers before him. His sigh was soft, but the weight of it made Cynthia's chest tighten. "Cynthia," he began, voice steady yet heavy. "Your body itself is healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. But," he paused, meeting her anxious eyes, "the sperm you've been receiving is infected. It carries bacteria that block fertilization. If this continues unchecked, it could cause permanent damage, infertility, even severe illness." Her breath caught. "Infected? You mean—" "I can't—" She couldn't finish the sentence. The doctor leaned forward, his tone both kind and firm. "You need to protect yourself. Convince your partner to come for treatment or stop altogether. If not, your future fertility could be at risk." Cynthia's hands trembled. Her vision blurred. Infertility? Infection. Words she never thought would be her burden. She bit her lip to hold back tears. In her mind, images of her boyfriend's face, his cruel smirk, and the way he chained her like property collided with the doctor's warning. The man she lived with, the man who claimed to love her, was slowly poisoning her, body and soul. Cynthia sat motionless on the hard wooden bench, staring at the tiled floor as the doctor's words echoed endlessly in her mind. Infection, infertility, damage. Each word cut deeper than the last. Her fists clenched on her knees, nails digging into her skin. She wanted to cry, to collapse, but instead she sat there, numb, her body a storm hidden beneath still waters. "So this is my life," she thought bitterly. "Tied to a man who chains me, forces himself on me, and now might destroy me completely." Rage bubbled in her chest, sharp and bitter yet tangled with fear. Her thoughts drifted to Amanda, fragile, grieving, yet still standing. Amanda had her own dangers. Rose plotting revenge, Gabriel's mother poisoning her peace. And now, Cynthia realized, she was caught between both worlds, her own prison and Amanda's storm. Her stomach churned at the thought of going back home, back to him. But escape wasn't an option, not yet. She had no plan, no power, no safe place. So she made one vow in that silence, her lips pressed tight. "I won't let him ruin me forever. I'll turn this around. Somehow. No matter the cost." That night, Cynthia walked back into the dimly lit house as though nothing had changed. Her steps were measured, her face calm, her smile faint, but convincing. Her boyfriend, lounging on the couch with a bottle in hand, looked up and grinned. "There's my girl," he said, pulling her into his arms. He had no idea the woman he embraced was no longer his, not truly. He poured her a drink, the clink of the glass echoing through the room, and began rambling about his next big score. His eyes gleamed as he leaned forward. "A wealthy politician, easy money, big ransom. If we pull this off, we'll be untouchable." Cynthia forced a laugh, leaning closer as though fascinated. "That sounds smart," she murmured, slipping in a few harmless suggestions that stroked his ego. He beamed, proud of her support, but beneath her steady smile, Cynthia's stomach twisted. Every word she spoke felt like swallowing poison. She wasn't his partner, not anymore. She was an actress, performing a role to survive. And in that quiet performance, a fire burned inside her. Play along, nod, smile. But one day I'll break these chains. One day soon, I'll be free. Meanwhile, Amanda was quietly preparing herself for the meeting with Cynthia. Her heart thumped harder than usual, not out of fear, but because she knew whatever Cynthia had to reveal would change things. She dressed plainly, slipped her handbag across her shoulder, and glanced around the house. This wasn't a trip she could explain in detail, not yet. She walked past Gabriel, who sat at his desk with his laptop glowing in front of him. His face was fixed, brows furrowed in concentration. Amanda hesitated, her lips parting as though she might say more. But the memory of their last argument over his mother silenced her. Their love was still strong, but the tension between them was like cracks in glass, widening a little more each day. "I'll be back soon," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "Okay," Gabriel replied flatly, eyes still on his screen. Amanda swallowed hard. That one word carried more weight than 1,000. She turned away, her chest tightening, and headed for the door. Cynthia, she thought, I hope whatever you want to tell me will help me make sense of all this chaos. As Amanda neared the front door, her steps slowed. There, planted like a gatekeeper, sat Mrs. Adaka. She was settled firmly on a wooden chair wedged across the doorway, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Amanda paused, choosing her words carefully. Mama, please, she said softly, almost pleading. Could you sit on the porch so I can pass? The reply came sharp, laced with contempt. Who are you to tell me where to sit in my son's house? You think you can order me around now? If you can't pass here, then use the back door. Amanda's stomach dropped. The back door's lock was broken. Mrs. Adaka knew this. It wasn't an accident. Amanda's pulse quickened, heat rising in her chest. She hated confrontation, hated the games, but she couldn't stay trapped inside forever. She inhaled deeply, trying to steady herself. Peace, she reminded herself. I must keep the peace. She adjusted her handbag strap and attempted to slide gently through the small space left beside the chair. The faint scrape of her bag against the wooden frame echoed louder than it should have. Amanda's heart pounded. She knew this was about to be twisted into something much bigger. Ah! She pushed me! She shrieked, clutching her side and allowing her body to tumble halfway toward the ground. The wail was theatrical, sharp enough to echo across the hall. Amanda froze mid-step, eyes wide in disbelief. She hadn't touched her deliberately, not even close. Mama, I didn't... Amanda's voice cracked, but her words were drowned out by the sobs and accusations spilling from Mrs. Adaka's lips. The commotion thundered through the quiet house. Gabriel, startled, rushed from his study, his chair scraping loudly behind him. His footsteps pounded the tiled floor until he appeared at the doorway. What he saw crushed him. His mother on the ground, her hand shaking as she pointed at Amanda, tears streaming down her cheeks. She pushed me, Gabriel. Your wife pushed me, Mrs. Adaka whimpered. Gabriel's chest tightened. His eyes, wide and raw, locked onto Amanda. Hurt clouded his judgment. He didn't ask. He didn't listen. In that moment, he believed his mother. Enough, Amanda! Gabriel's voice thundered through the room, heavy with anger and disbelief. The sharpness in his tone cut through Amanda like glass. She staggered back, her lips trembling as she tried to explain. Gabriel, I didn't... Her words cracked, but he raised a hand, silencing her. His face was hard, his eyes dark with hurt. If you can't love my mother, he said, each word slow and deliberate, no matter what she does, then consider my love for you turned off. The sentence echoed in Amanda's ears, louder than any scream. It wasn't just anger, it was rejection, a wall slamming down between them. Tears welled instantly, blurring her sight. Her chest tightened, and her heart felt as though it had been crushed beneath the weight of betrayal. How could he? After all the pain she had endured, losing her baby, living under daily torment, biting her tongue through countless accusations, Gabriel's voice, once her refuge, now condemned her. Amanda's knees weakened. Her mind screamed, "This isn't fair. I've done nothing wrong." But her lips quivered in silence, unable to defend herself against the man she loved most. Amanda stood frozen, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Her eyes flicked to Gabriel, the man she once believed would fight the world for her, now bent over, consoling his mother as she sniffled and dabbed fake tears from her cheeks. The sight burned into Amanda's soul, leaving a scar deeper than any slap or insult ever could. Without a word, she turned back into their bedroom. Each step felt heavier, as though her legs were made of stone. She pulled a small bag from under the bed, her hands trembling as she folded a few clothes into it. Her heart whispered one last desperate hope. He'll stop me. He'll ask me to stay. But Gabriel never looked up. His arms stayed around his mother, his face buried in her theatrics. Amanda's throat ached with unshed tears. She straightened her shoulders, clutching the bag to her chest. With quiet dignity, she walked to the door. The click of it closing behind her was soft, but in her heart it roared like thunder. This wasn't just about endurance anymore, it was about survival, and survival meant leaving. Meanwhile, Cynthia in her boyfriend's house adjusted her scarf with shaky fingers, preparing to slip out for her secret meeting with Amanda. She had practiced her calm face in the mirror, but inside her chest a storm raged. Every step felt heavy, like her boyfriend's eyes could see through walls. Just as she reached for the door, his voice cracked through the silence like a whip. "Where is Amanda? And her husband?" Her blood ran cold. For a moment the air froze. He never forgot things, and Cynthia had prayed this question would never return. Her lips twitched into a forced smile. "I don't really know," she said, lowering her gaze, careful not to meet his eyes. He leaned back lazily in his chair, a cruel smirk tugging at his lips. "Good. That's what I thought." He waved her off with the ease of a man who believed he had complete control. Cynthia exhaled slowly, relief flooding her chest. She thought she had bought herself safety. But what she didn't know was that 2 of his boys were already stationed outside, trailing her every move like shadows. Her freedom was only an illusion. She was still his prisoner, even outside the walls. Amanda arrived at the quiet meeting point first, her heart racing, palms damp as she waited. Every sound made her glance over her shoulder. When Cynthia finally stepped in, their eyes met and the weight of their separate battles crashed between them. They hugged tightly, but it was brief. Survival left no room for comfort. Cynthia wasted no time. Her voice was low, fast, and shaking. "Amanda, listen, you're in danger. He's planning to kidnap you, use you to bleed Gabriel dry. He won't stop until you're destroyed." Amanda's breath faltered. Her body stiffened as she gripped Cynthia's wrist. "Gabriel, he's not the same anymore. He sides with his mother. He doesn't even see me." Her voice cracked, raw with betrayal. Cynthia's face hardened, eyes sparking with frustration. "Amanda, don't talk like that." The air thickened between them. 2 women scarred by different wounds, both right in their own way. Both wrong in another. Their bond trembled under the weight of truth, loyalty, and bitterness. For Amanda, it felt like losing her friend just when she needed her most. Before Amanda could even defend her words, the air around them shifted, heavy, dangerous. Boots scraped against the concrete floor, echoing like a warning drumbeat. From the shadows emerged Cynthia's boyfriend and his men, faces hard, eyes sharp, guns flashing in the dim light. The women froze as the circle tightened. Like predators, the men moved in, each step precise, their confidence chilling. One of them lunged suddenly, gripping Amanda's arm so tightly she cried out in pain. Her body twisted as she fought to pull away, but the thug's hold was unshakable. Panic surged through her veins, her heart pounding in her ears. Cynthia's eyes blazed. In a surge of defiance, she hurled herself at one of the men, wrenching the gun from his hands with raw, desperate strength. For a fleeting second, hope flared. A fragile flame in the chaos. Amanda's eyes widened, believing maybe they could fight their way out together. But the moment didn't last. The sound of a gun cocking cut through the air like thunder. All eyes turned as Cynthia's boyfriend stepped forward, rage twisting his face. The circle closed tighter, their temporary advantage gone, and in that instant, everything collapsed into violence. The command came sharp like ice cutting through the chaos. "Put it down, Cynthia." Her boyfriend's voice was calm but laced with menace. The circle of men held their breath, eyes flicking between the trembling gun in Cynthia's hands and the predator who owned her life. Cynthia's fingers shook, but her spirit did not. She squared her shoulders, eyes locking onto Amanda's terrified face. With every ounce of strength left in her, she rasped, "Run!" Her voice cracked, desperate, raw, but it was all Amanda needed to hear. The next moment shattered everything. A deafening crack split the night as her boyfriend pulled the trigger. Cynthia's body jerked violently, the gun slipping from her grasp as she crumpled to the floor. A dark stain spread quickly across her clothes. For a heartbeat, even the men stood stunned. They hadn't expected him to fire so quickly, so ruthlessly. Amanda stumbled into the night, her breath sharp and uneven, her legs barely carrying her weight. Behind her, Cynthia's faint gasps echoed, each one weaker than the last. Amanda wanted to turn back, to fight, but terror pushed her forward. If she stayed, both of them would die. The sound of boots faded as Gabriel's boyfriend barked one last order, his men vanishing into the shadows like ghosts. They didn't care about Cynthia bleeding out on the cold ground. Leaving her to die was part of the cruelty. Amanda's feet pounded against the lonely pavement, each step fueled by fear and desperation. Her lungs burned, her chest tightened, but she didn't dare stop. In her hand, she clutched the only thing she had left, her small phone. Over and over, she dialed Gabriel's number, praying for him to pick up. Each unanswered ring deepened the ache in her heart. Her mind replayed the horror of Cynthia collapsing in blood, her bag, debit cards, and purse abandoned at the scene. She was stripped of everything: resources, safety, and even trust. The city lights blurred through her tears, every shadow looming like a predator waiting to devour her. "God, please, where do I go now?" she whispered, voice breaking as she staggered forward. For the first time, Amanda felt completely alone, cornered by fate itself. Then, out of the darkness, a voice cut through the silence. "Amanda." Her body froze, her pulse skipping. She turned, fear and hope colliding in her chest. Standing a few feet away was Angel. A mix of warmth and familiarity radiated from her face, a sharp contrast to the night's cruelty. For a fleeting moment, Amanda's heart dared to believe she'd found help. Angel's eyes widened as she took in Amanda's state, torn clothes clinging to her, hair tangled, and her entire body trembling like a cornered bird. "Amanda, what happened to you?" she asked, her voice dripping with sympathy, though her mind was already calculating. Amanda's defenses were paper-thin, worn down by grief, fear, and exhaustion. Her voice cracked as she spoke, desperation lacing every word. "Please, can I come with you, just for tonight? Tomorrow I'll go to the bank, sort everything out, and I'll be gone." Angel's lips curved into a soft smile, masking the storm of thoughts spinning inside her. Rose's instructions echoed loud in her head. "Earn Amanda's trust. Bring her to me." She hesitated just long enough to make it seem genuine, then stepped closer and placed a hand gently on Amanda's arm. "Of course, you're safe with me," she said, her tone warm, almost sisterly. Amanda's shoulders slumped, a small breath of relief escaping her chest. For the first time that night, she felt like she wasn't alone. She leaned into Angel's comfort without knowing the truth, that the friend she trusted was leading her straight into the jaws of the enemy. Later that night, Amanda curled up on the couch, finally allowing her weary body a moment of rest. Her breathing softened, though her face still carried the weight of fear and loss. Angel watched her for a moment, her smile tight, then quietly slipped into the next room, phone clutched in her hand. Her fingers trembled as she dialed the number she had etched into memory. The line rang once, twice, then clicked. "Yes?" Rose's sharp voice sliced through the silence. Angel lowered her tone, whispering like someone confessing a secret. "She's with me. Amanda. I've got her." A brief silence followed. Then a dark chuckle vibrated through the speaker. "Good girl. Bring her to me. Don't let her suspect a thing. Tonight she walks into her own grave." Angel's throat tightened, but she forced herself to nod as if Rose could see her through the line. "Understood," she whispered, before ending the call. When she returned, Amanda sat up slightly, eyes heavy but hopeful. Angel masked her nerves with a warm smile. "You can't stay here, it's not safe. I'll take you to my house, it's quieter there." Amanda, drained and desperate for peace, nodded without hesitation. Amanda trailed behind Angel, the night air chilling her skin. Her fingers clenched her small phone like a lifeline, though she hadn't managed to reach Gabriel. Each unanswered call replayed in her mind, stabbing her with fresh doubt. Maybe he was still angry. Maybe he didn't care anymore. She swallowed the ache, forcing herself to believe Angel's calm reassurances. "We're almost there," Angel murmured, glancing back with a faint smile. "You'll rest well tonight." The car rolled to a stop before a quiet, isolated building. Its windows were dark, its surroundings too silent, but Amanda didn't question it. Exhaustion had numbed her instincts. She just wanted a place to breathe, even for one night. Angel stepped out first, walking with a confidence that seemed oddly rehearsed. Amanda followed, dragging her feet, her mind heavy with memories of Cynthia's blood and Gabriel's harsh words. "Welcome," Angel whispered as she pushed the front door open. Amanda crossed the threshold without hesitation, grateful for what she thought was kindness. But as soon as her foot touched the cold tiles, the air shifted, heavier, colder. A shiver raced down her spine. Then, click. The sitting room light snapped on, revealing a presence she never expected. Amanda froze as though her soul had left her body. Sitting in the middle of the room, bathed in the harsh glow of the overhead light, was Auntie Rose. Her eyes burned with cruel satisfaction, her posture regal yet predatory. Amanda's heart thundered in her chest, every instinct screaming that she had walked straight into the lion's den. Behind her, the quiet click of the door closing sealed her fate. Angel's hand lingered on the knob for a second too long before she turned away, her mask of warmth slipping into indifference. Amanda's gaze darted to her, betrayal slicing deeper than any wound. "Angel, what have you done?" Her voice cracked, heavy with disbelief. Angel shifted uncomfortably but didn't answer, her silence speaking louder than words. Rose rose slowly from her chair, the deliberate scrape of wood against tile echoing through the stillness. Each step she took toward Amanda carried venom, her lips curling into a wicked smile. "Finally," Rose whispered, her voice low and poisonous. "You should never have survived this long. Tonight, it ends." Amanda's breath caught, her knees weakening. The walls seemed to shrink around her, the air thick with malice. She was cornered, and utterly alone. Mrs. Adaka lay sprawled on her bed, clutching her waist with exaggerated groans, her face twisted in pain. Each time the doctor came, she complained louder than before. "Doctor, the pain is worse today. I can hardly breathe," she whimpered, squeezing her eyes shut as though the very act of speaking drained her strength. The doctor adjusted her medications, prescribed rest, and reassured Gabriel that healing would come with time. But Mrs. Adaka only shook her head dramatically. The moment the doctor left, her act sharpened. "Gabriel, don't you see?" she hissed, pointing a shaky finger toward the door as if Amanda stood there in spirit. "That girl is a curse. From the day she entered this house, death and misfortune have followed. Your baby, my health, everything ruined." Gabriel stood by the bedside, torn. He wanted to defend Amanda, but his mother's words were relentless. Each complaint chipped at his resolve. The woman who had raised him through hunger and hardship now lay frail before him, painting Amanda as the source of her suffering. Love for his wife battled with loyalty to his mother. And though he said nothing, doubt began to slip quietly into Gabriel's heart like poison. Her hands trembling as she beckoned Gabriel closer. "My son, my days are numbered," she whispered, her voice thin, like it was fighting its way out of her chest. "Come, hear my last words." Gabriel's heart raced as he rushed to her side. "Mama, stop this," he pleaded, clutching her hand. "You're not going anywhere. You'll be fine." But her eyes held a rehearsed kind of desperation. "If you want me to die in peace," she said, pausing for effect, "do one thing for me. Marry Angel." Gabriel's jaw clenched. His head shook violently. "No, Mama. I already have a wife. Amanda isn't perfect, but who is? She's my wife, and I will find her." Mrs. Adaka's frail mask cracked into fury. Her voice sharpened as she sat up halfway, glaring into his soul. "If you refuse, Gabriel, I will never forgive you. When I die, my spirit will curse you. You will cease to be my son." The words struck him like a thunderbolt, leaving him trembling, torn between loyalty and love. That night, Gabriel sat alone in his study, the glow of his desk lamp throwing long shadows across the room. His mother's words refused to leave his ears, echoing like a curse. He buried his head in his hands, but memories he had long suppressed came flooding back. He saw Amanda as she had been when he first met her, trapped in that sordid pawn company, forced into unspeakable acts, her dignity stripped away. He had rescued her, fought for her, defended her against every insult, yet now those same images felt heavier, sharper, like knives twisting in his chest, his fists clenched on the desk. "What if Mama is right?" he muttered under his breath. "What if all these deaths, the miscarriages, the endless misfortunes, are tied to Amanda's past sins? What if she carries a curse I can't fight?" The thought sickened him, but he couldn't push it away. He had always believed love could conquer anything, yet tonight, his faith wavered. He had stood against his mother before, but now for the first time, her narrative began to make sense. Doubt slithered into his heart, shaking the loyalty he once thought unbreakable. Gabriel tossed and turned in his bed, sleep refusing to come. His mother's words gnawed at him like a worm in his chest. Finally, with a trembling hand, he picked up his phone and scrolled to a number he hadn't dialed in months. Angel. He hesitated, then pressed call. Across town, Angel's lips curved into a slow, wicked smile as the screen lit up. Perfect timing. She was sitting in front of Amanda, who was tied tightly to a chair, gagged, her eyes wide with terror. Angel pressed the speaker button, letting Amanda hear every word. "Hello, Gabriel," Angel purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Gabriel exhaled, his tone weary. "Angel, can we meet tomorrow? Just to talk. Maybe fix things between us." Amanda jerked against the ropes, muffled cries breaking from her gag. Tears streamed down her cheeks, the sound of his voice cutting deeper than the ropes biting her wrists. Angel's gaze flicked to her prisoner, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. "And what about your wife?" she asked slyly. Silence filled the line before Gabriel spoke, his voice low, defeated. "It didn't work out. We weren't compatible." Amanda's sobs turned into broken whimpers. Her world was collapsing. Angel lowered her phone slowly, the wicked grin never leaving her face. She turned to Amanda, who sat bound tightly to the chair, her muffled sobs soaking the gag across her mouth. "Tomorrow," Angel said with a triumphant sigh. "Sheraton Hotel. Noon. Your husband is coming to me. Willingly." Amanda's tears spilled harder, her chest heaving with silent cries. She shook her head weakly, trying to deny the reality clawing at her heart. Angel crouched low, her lips brushing Amanda's ear. "Do you see now? You've already lost. He chose me." The words landed like daggers. Amanda closed her eyes, wishing she could vanish, but the ropes held her firm. Angel rose gracefully, her heels clicking against the floor as she left the room, humming a tune of victory. Meanwhile, across town, Gabriel lay restless in his bed. He stared at the ceiling, thoughts colliding in his mind, his mother's pleas, Amanda's past, and the strange comfort Angel's voice had stirred. His hand still rested on his phone, guilt pressing heavy in his chest. He told himself it was only a conversation, nothing more. But in truth, he had already stepped blindly into Rose's snare. Gabriel sat at the Sheraton Hotel lounge, his palms pressed together so tightly that sweat dampened them. His eyes scanned the entrance every second, his chest heavy with anticipation. The clinking of glasses and low murmur of conversations around him felt distant, drowned out by the thudding of his heart. Then she appeared. Angel glided into the room with effortless confidence, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Her beauty was undeniable, her presence commanding, and for a brief moment, Gabriel's breath caught in relief. As if she was the answer to his chaos, he stood quickly, nearly knocking over his glass. "Angel," he said softly, almost pleading, "take me back. Let's try again." Angel tilted her head, concealing her satisfaction beneath a delicate smile. This was what she had wanted all along, to watch him beg. "If that's what you want," she replied, her voice smooth, sweet, but hollow. That evening, she followed him home. The moment Mrs. Adaka saw them together, her eyes lit with triumph. "Finally, my son has listened," she whispered, her hand pressed to her chest. To her, it was a victory. Yet in reality, she had just welcomed the storm that would destroy them all. That night, Angel stayed under Gabriel's roof, but not in his bed. There was no intimacy, only long hours of conversation. She sat cross-legged across from him, her eyes wide with curiosity, her tone soft and encouraging. "Who are your shareholders?" she asked lightly, twirling the rim of her glass. "How does the company make most of its profits? What challenges do you face?" The question sounded harmless, even supportive, and Gabriel's guarded heart began to ease. He spoke freely, answering each one, flattered that she seemed so invested in his work. Angel nodded at the right moments, her gaze never breaking, her words laced with admiration. "You've built something incredible, Gabriel. With me by your side, we can make this empire unstoppable." To Gabriel, it felt like destiny correcting itself, a woman who understood his vision, his struggles, his ambition. He went to bed lighter that night, convinced that Angel's return was proof that things were finally falling into place. By morning, he took her to the office. Standing tall, he introduced her to his staff as his wife-to-be. A ripple of unease moved across the room, but no one dared speak. Angel smiled. She had replaced Amanda without lifting a finger. The days that followed were painted in false serenity. Angel made herself comfortable in Gabriel's mansion, draping luxury around her like a second skin. One evening, she reclined on the wide balcony, a chilled glass of red wine balanced delicately in her hand. The fading sun bathed the sky in gold and crimson. But her thoughts were anything but romantic. With her phone in the other hand, she scrolled through company reports Gabriel had shared so proudly. Her lips curved into a smile, not of admiration, but of calculation. "Every figure, every deal, every billion," she whispered, tapping the screen. "All of it will be the rope I use to strangle him." Her mind replayed the moment he threw her out, discarded like garbage. Bitterness coiled tight in her chest. "He thought he was done with me," she muttered under her breath, her eyes narrowing. "Now I'll make him crawl." That night, as the city lights flickered below, an idea came sharp as a knife. She remembered a man from her old street, Cynthia's boyfriend, the notorious kidnapper who vanished after police raids. Angel flipped through her old diary, found his number and dialed. The line clicked. "Hello?" A deep voice rumbled. Angel's smile widened. "I have a job for you." The meeting place was dim and smoky, tucked away in the back of a forgotten bar. Angel arrived in silence, her heels clicking against the worn tiles, and slid into the chair across from him. Without a word, she pulled a folded photograph from her purse and pushed it across the table. Cynthia's boyfriend leaned forward, his rough fingers unfolding the picture. His eyes scanned Gabriel's face, and then a low chuckle escaped his lips. "This man? Perfect," he muttered. "I've had my eyes on him for a while. Rich, influential, easy prey." Angel's gaze was steady, cold. She leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kidnap him. Demand ransom. Keep him long enough to break him. While you hold him, I'll take care of his company from the inside." The man smirked, tapping the edge of the photo. "Consider it done, but remember, once I take him, there's no turning back. If you change your mind, you'll lose him forever." Angel didn't flinch. Her smile was sharp as glass. "That's the point." The deal was sealed. And fate, or rather her design, moved quickly. The very next day, Gabriel received a call for a major partnership in Lagos, a call Angel herself had orchestrated. Gabriel rose early, the call for a partnership meeting in Lagos still replaying in his head like a sweet melody. He packed with careful precision, excitement in his every move. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, a chance to expand his empire. Standing in the living room, he glanced at Angel. "Who will handle things here while I'm gone?" he asked, scratching the back of his head. Angel touched his arm lightly, her smile warm and reassuring. "Don't worry, love. I'll handle everything. Focus on your trip." From the corner, Mrs. Adaka watched with satisfaction, her heart swelling with misplaced pride. "My son is finally back on track," she thought, convinced Angel was the blessing Amanda never was. Gabriel embraced his mother, kissed her forehead, and gave Angel a final hug before stepping into the car with his driver. The air felt fresh, hopeful. But halfway down the quiet, lonely road, the atmosphere shifted. Tires screeched. A van swerved across their path. Within seconds, masked men surrounded the car, guns drawn. The driver shouted in panic, but it was too late. Gabriel and his driver were dragged out violently, blindfolded, and shoved into a waiting van. The silence that followed was deadly. Gabriel's future, and Amanda's last fragile hope, had just been swallowed whole. Mrs. Adaka sat comfortably in the sitting room, her wrapper tied neatly, her lips stretched in a satisfied smile. To her, life had finally tilted in her favor. Amanda was gone, the supposed curse removed, and Angel now sat proudly in her son's house like the perfect replacement. She poured herself a drink, savoring the taste of triumph. "At last," she whispered. "My son has listened." Then the phone on the side table buzzed. She reached for it slowly, still smiling, but the voice that came through froze her blood. "Hello, Ma. Are you Mrs. Adaka? Your son is under our hostage right now." Before she could respond, the line went dead. The glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the tiled floor. Her heart hammered violently in her chest. She dialed back, her fingers shaking, but no one answered. Again. Again. Until finally, the call connected. A cold, unfamiliar voice cut through the silence. "We need the sum of 800 million to get your son released." Her throat tightened, her breath catching. 800 million? Her hands trembled as the figure echoed in her head. Yes, she was wealthy, but without touching the company's coffers, this ransom was far beyond her reach. Shaking, Mrs. Adaka grabbed her phone and dialed Angel's number. At that moment, Angel was in Gabriel's office, flashing polite smiles at the staff while pretending to handle files like a dutiful wife-to-be. The call came through and Angel answered sweetly. The moment she heard Mrs. Adaka's panicked tone, she masked her grin and forced alarm into her voice. "Mama! What happened?" she cried, rushing back to the house. She burst into the sitting room, her steps hurried, her expression painted with fear. "They want 800 million!" Mrs. Adaka sobbed, clutching her wrapper as if it would keep her together. "They have Gabriel," Angel gasped, sinking into a chair, covering her face with her hands. "Oh God, oh no," she muttered, shoulders shaking as if she were crying. Then, lowering her hands, crocodile tears glistened in her eyes. "Don't worry, Mama, we'll fix this. The company can cover it. You are the next of kin. You can authorize the release. It's about Gabriel's life." Blinded by fear and guilt, Mrs. Adaka nodded quickly. Together they called the finance team, who prepared urgent documents. With trembling hands, Mrs. Adaka signed. She thought she was saving her son. In reality, she had just handed the Empire's vault to the wolf. The kidnapper's den reeked of sweat and damp walls. Gabriel's driver sat crouched in a corner, his wrists sore from the rough ropes. His mind raced. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. Summoning courage, he groaned and clutched his stomach. "Please, I need to ease myself," he begged. One of the guards laughed cruelly, waving his gun. "Move, but don't try anything stupid." He followed the driver outside, dragging his feet lazily, thinking the man was harmless. The moment they reached the shadows, the driver struck. He twisted, slammed his shoulder into the guard's chest, and the two tumbled to the ground. A scuffle erupted. Fists, elbows, desperation. With raw strength, the driver managed to wrestle the weapon away and knock the guard unconscious. His heart thundered as he ran into the night. Branches tore at his shirt, stones cut his feet, but he didn't stop. Every step was powered by survival and loyalty. Hours later, drenched in sweat and panting, he stumbled into Gabriel's mansion. He burst through the doors. "Mama!" he shouted, pointing at Angel. "She's a traitor! I heard her voice with the kidnappers!" Mrs. Adaka froze. Angel's crocodile mask cracked, and a cold smile slipped through. Slowly, Angel dropped her act, arms folding across her chest. The mask of innocence slipped away, replaced with a cold, triumphant smile. The gunshot echoed through the mansion, sharp and final. Gabriel's driver collapsed to the floor, clutching his leg as blood seeped rapidly into the polished tiles. His cries of agony filled the air. Mrs. Adaka dropped to her knees beside him, her wrapper shifting out of place as she wailed. "Please, don't kill him, I beg you." Her voice cracked, desperate, but the men standing over them showed no mercy. Angel's eyes, once soft and manipulative, hardened into cold steel. She stood tall, wineglass still in hand, and her voice cut like a blade. "Tie them both. I don't want them moving an inch." The armed men moved quickly, ropes tightening around Mrs. Adaka's wrists and the driver's trembling body. She fought, pleaded, screamed, but it was useless. In moments, she was stripped of her pride, her authority, her illusions of control. Tears streamed down her face, bitter and hot, as the weight of her mistake sank in. She had destroyed Amanda, cursed Amanda, all to bring Angel into her home, only to hand her family's empire to a snake. Angel smirked, watching them dragged into a dark room. Raising her glass slightly, she whispered, "This is my throne now." The empire was hers, for now. Auntie Rose sat back in her chair, eyes hard and unyielding, her mind circling the same thought like a vulture. Amanda didn't deserve a quick death. No, that would be too merciful. For a week, she had kept her locked away in the small back room, the door bolted tight. Food was forbidden. Only a cup of water once a day slid through the crack. Rose wanted to watch her wither slowly, to hear the faint cries weaken into silence. Every whimper Amanda made was music to her ears, a twisted lullaby of revenge. She whispered under her breath, her lips curling into a smile, "You won't just die, you'll beg for it first." The house was quiet until a sudden knock shattered the stillness. Sharp and loud, it made Rose's pulse skip. Very few people came to her home, and never without warning. Rising quickly, she straightened her wrapper and walked to the door. When she pulled it open, her heart almost stopped. "Victor," she gasped. There he was, her only son, tall and tired from travel, but he wasn't supposed to be here. Not now. Not when Amanda was still locked inside her house. He was the one person who could ruin everything. "Victor?" Rose's voice cracked as her eyes widened. "I thought you left the country last week." "Yes, Mama," he answered steadily, setting his bag down by the door. "I almost did, but on my way to the airport, I saw a young woman by the roadside. She'd been shot, barely alive. I couldn't just walk away. I rushed her to the hospital. She's still fighting for her life, so I stayed behind to make sure she was cared for." For a brief moment, pride flickered in Rose's chest. Her son had always been noble, compassionate, proof of the kind of man she had raised. But that flicker was swallowed instantly by fear. Amanda was still inside this house, locked away, weak, helpless. If Victor discovered her, all would collapse. His love for truth and justice would turn against her, and she would lose him forever. Masking her dread, Rose forced a warm smile. That was noble of you, my son. Truly noble, she said, reaching for his arm. But you must rest now. You've done enough. Victor nodded, though his sharp eyes lingered on her face. Something about her tone felt off. Rose turned away quickly, already scheming how to keep her darkest secret hidden. Rose forced a smile, her voice soft but insistent. Victor, you should go back to the hospital. Or better still, continue your journey. There's nothing for you here. But Victor shook his head. No, Mama. I'll stay here a while. The hospital is close by and I feel I should be around. Her chest tightened. His tone was calm, but his eyes told a different story. Sharp, searching, almost as if he was reading every corner of the house. Rose's pulse quickened. She needed to act fast. Fine, she said lightly. Rest then. I'll step out for some errands. She made sure Amanda's door was bolted tight, double-checking the lock before hurrying out. In truth, her destination was Angel. She needed advice. Urgently, left alone, Victor paced slowly through the house. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the window made him more alert. Then he froze. A sound, faint, muffled, almost like a groan. It came from the far end of the hall, the old guest room. His brow furrowed. That door had never been locked before, yet now it was shut tight with a heavy bolt. Victor's gut twisted. Someone was inside. Victor rammed his shoulder against the door until the wood cracked and burst open. What he saw inside stole his breath. Amanda lay slumped on the cold floor, lips dry, face pale from days without food. Her eyes fluttered weakly, barely able to focus. "My God," Victor whispered, rushing to her side. His chest tightened with horror. He darted to the kitchen, desperate to find anything to revive her. Water, bread, scraps of food. As pots clattered, Amanda's gaze followed the door. Her heart pounded. This was her chance. If she stayed, Rose would return, and survival would vanish. Summoning the last thread of strength in her frail body, Amanda dragged herself up, her legs trembling. Each step felt impossible, but the thought of freedom pulled her forward. She steadied against the wall, inching toward the door, her breath ragged. By the time Victor returned with food and water, the room was empty. The ropes lay discarded, the window ajar. Panic surged through him, but Amanda was already gone, forcing her battered body out of Rose's house. She hadn't thanked him. She couldn't. Survival left no room for goodbyes. Amanda staggered into the cool night air, lungs heaving, her frail body trembling with every step. The gravel bit into her bare feet, but she pressed on, each stride pulling her further from the prison she had endured. For the first time in days, the air tasted like freedom. Her eyes lifted to the dark horizon, hope flickering faintly in her chest. Then, suddenly, beams of headlights sliced through the night. She froze, blinded, shielding her face. The rumble of an engine died, and the doors clicked open. Out stepped Rose, her silhouette sharp against the glare, Angel by her side, arms folded smugly. 2 armed men flanked them, their shadows stretching long across the road. Amanda's heart plummeted. "Where do you think you're going?" Rose sneered, her laughter cold and cutting. Amanda stumbled backward, shaking her head, but the men moved swiftly, their hands clamped down on her arms, iron tight, dragging her toward the waiting car. "No, please," Amanda screamed, her voice raw, echoing into the darkness. But no one came. The night swallowed her cries whole. Her fleeting taste of freedom had shattered. She was back in the grip of her enemies, this time with no escape in sight. Watch out for Part 10, the grand finale. Everything has led to this moment. Amanda's fate hangs by a thread. Gabriel is trapped in the hands of enemies, and the masks around Mrs. Adaka and Angel are finally slipping. Betrayal, revenge, and survival will collide in ways no one saw coming. Will love conquer the storm, or will Amanda's story end in tragedy? Don't miss the shocking conclusion in Part 10, the grand finale. Turn on notifications, subscribe, and get ready, because what's coming will leave you breathless.